Me and you are probably very similar, and I don't mean my goofy look, I mean the common love we share. We've been on a lifetime quest to acquire the most cinematic image possible because we respect and love the art of films, the great ones at least. What does that mean exactly, cinematic image? To me, that means creating a cinematic video that resembles traditional film consistently and for the most part without a $120,000 combo of an RE plus an RE prime lens setup. 99% of us don't have access to those. And ultimately, how do we accomplish that? Well, with a cinema camera, or if we define a cinema camera as a camera that has professional features like zebras, shutter angles, XLR inputs, then we can reduce it to the basics. We just need a camera, probably one with 10-bit and logs so we can manipulate it afterwards. We've all started somewhere. I started in the 7D, 5D Mark II days when I was able to film my first image that looked almost like a real movie, probably because of the bokeh you could produce with a simple zoom and with a full-frame DSLR. The bokeh you could get with those longer lenses, it destroyed my camcorders. And since then, I've been on a mission to be able to consistently create video that resembles film, that comes close to The Godfather, or Godfather 2 to be specific, to Interstellar, to No Country for Old Men, to Pulp Fiction. But it's not just films, even shows can look cinematic. Breaking Bad, Reacher, Sherlock, they all have a cinematic image. And I know those were all likely shot on film or REs, and recent things are shot primarily on newer REs and Reds, and we can rent those cameras if we can't outright buy them. But also note, I did own a Red Komodo for about a year, and I think the image from that is truly stunning, but perhaps not consistently cinematic. I've never owned an RE, and somehow I think if I did, I still wouldn't get consistently cinematic images without knowing the formula. And then there was the Canon C70 with the DGO sensor. I form a silly smile thinking about it, but it was Super 35 sensor. Don't we need full frame? I rented or bought the FX3, the S5 Mark II, the Blackmagic 4K, 6K, full frame, S5 IIX, the C300 Mark III, the Red Komodo like I said, and all of these produced something very close. It was almost there, like a track race, and there was just one more person the baton needed to be handed to. Something was preventing that final handoff. But what was it? Was it movement? You hear experts say you need motivated movement or cinematic movement. I had the original Ronin, the one that threw out your back, the RS1, 2, 3, the Pro. I got the new Osmo Pocket 3 too. So we've been able to introduce movement for a while. We even had sliders back then. Remember those? I bought my first one for $500. I tossed it in the trash a few months ago because it just took up too much room. But that never solved the problem. If it's not movement, then it has to be lighting. But I've been using lights before there were LEDs, the kinds where they would get too hot to touch and you'd have to wait 30 minutes before you could pack them up, and then you still would probably need gloves. Then I got the Aperture 300D Mark II, the 600, the huge Nova 600, and yes, I was able to create more dimensional lighting. I was able to diffuse light more easily, and I think the quality of my lighting increased with these. I feel the baton is now touching the fingers of my partner. So if not lighting, well, that leaves just one more thing, right? Lenses. But even if I shoot at a 2.8 or a 1.2, I'm just isolating the subject more. I'm not creating something that looks like Stranger Things or Donnie Darko or Parasite. I've owned a Canon R5 for years now. It shoots log, it shoots 10-bit, it shoots in 8K for goodness sake. I have owned the 50 1.2, the 85 1.2, I have the 35 2.0 or 1.8, the 24 to 70 2.8, the 70 to 200 2.8. These are all RF lenses, perhaps some of the highest quality lenses at the moment. They're sharp, minimal distortion, they're clean, they autofocus quickly and quietly, but that's not what I'm looking for. I don't care about barrel distortion or rolling shutter if the image isn't cinematic. So the question remains, do lenses fit in the cinematic equation? Cinematic equals blank plus blank. Have I been looking in the wrong area? Is it the color grade, the blue and teal, the desaturation, the bleach bypass? Must it be a Fuji or a Kodak film stock? Grain? Do I need to pay $799 for real-time grain rendering, or does the free download suffice? Is it halation, plugins, Red Giant, Film Convert? I mean, it does have film in its name. And that brings us to today's sponsors. I'm kidding. I bring this all to you myself. Check out my courses if you'd like to support. But this picture is pretty cinematic, isn't it? So can we rule out color grade as being essential to the equation if the log format of the picture is cinematic from the get-go? If it can be achieved in camera, then the color grade is no longer necessary, right? To be perfectly honest, I think all pictures need some kind of grade. Whether shot in log or raw, 12-bit, 10-bit, there needs to be a final grade that makes the film cohesive, to give the proper mood the creator intended. To appear consistently cinematic across your scenes, your color grade must match. But we also know for certain your lighting manufacturer or diffuser or size doesn't have to match. You just need great quality of light. Your lenses don't even have to match. Most films use a variety of lenses, although typically from the same manufacturer, but just different focal lengths. Even your cameras don't have to match. We've seen crash cameras appear to be DSLRs or GoPros, and you may not have noticed because the color grade was so great. We have real films, award-winning, critically acclaimed, shot with Reds, Canons, Sonys, and Nikon. I don't know if they were shot on any on Nikons. So then there is something more than the color grade. Quality lighting is necessary. It's a must. No film is simply shot with sunlight or incandescent light bulbs. Even The Revenant used diffusion from clouds available at certain times of the day while claiming completely natural light. I think you need quality light that appears genuine, natural, and isn't distracting. This is what allows for the picture to capture something cinematic, and the lighting allows the color grade to work. They go hand in hand, and the baton is now in the final runner's hand. Will he or she run to the finish line? I think I'm getting closer to solving the puzzle. A cinematic image equals color grade plus quality lighting. Plus, there's gotta be one more thing. What is the final part of the equation? It feels like we're running in circles now. So is it camera or is it lens? Because whatever you pick, you must be able to test, confirm, and replicate. And if we go by that standard, I think I got the answer. I think I've actually done the test to prove my findings. And are you hanging on by the edge of your seat, waiting for the answer? Let me answer one more question first. Why do you need a cinematic image in the first place? That's the easiest question for me to answer. I grew up on films. I remember my first movie in the theater. It was Lady and the Tramp, an animated film. Although I don't exactly remember it, but what I do remember is my uncle Amir, who is no longer with us, had to persuade my parents to take me to watch it. I remember years later my older cousin Mike taking me to my first back-to-back movies, Rookie of the Year and Fugitive. It blew my mind you could watch two movies back-to-back in a theater. I had no idea of the term double feature. Why did I think there were limits? I remember reconciling friendships over Men in Black 2 or The Lawnmower Man, which I still don't remember what that bizarre movie was about, but I clearly remember going with my dad and how we bought a whole box of Big Stick popsicles to eat during the movie after we snuck them in. He told me it was cheaper to buy a box of ice cream from the grocery store than one of the smaller ice cream from the theater. I know. He's the reason theaters are going out of business. I remember accidentally watching Michael Douglas in The Game because the movie we wanted to watch wasn't showing, and how I left the theater wondering what kind of mind fudge I had just experienced. I remember The Sixth Sense catching me off guard and my eyes widening up at the reveal. I remember watching Memento at home sitting dazed when the credits started rolling, and all the rom-coms I watched with my wife when we were first dating, or I watched because she usually fell asleep halfway through the movies. And now, at this very moment, I cherish all the films I watch with my favorite companion, my son, waiting to see which films he falls in love with. I think it was Toy Story for the most part of this past year. But in the meantime, I've shot thousands of hours of footage with him, with almost every modern camera available, the Komodo, the C300 Mark III, Blackmagic, C70, everything. I want him to grow up and know that he's the star in my movie. And he has been before he even arrived. He's my favorite actor, my favorite character, and I would shoot with him all day, every day if I could. He deserves the best. He deserves a cinematic image. He deserves quality production. He's the reason I have to deliver. 20, 30, or 40 years from now, when I'm gone, if I even make it that long, he'll be able to watch real home movies of us, with quality lighting, with exceptional image quality, with lenses that help create a cinematic image. and if he uncovers my hard drive, the vast majority of the footage will be in log format ungraded. But there will still be lots of short films he's in that are graded, perhaps also with a storyline, a purpose, and hopefully a message. So he's the reason I have to uncover one of my current mysteries, the magic formula. Which brings us to the final remaining part of the equation. Let me start with 3 lenses. The first 2 are the Laowa Argus lenses, a 33mm f/0.95 and a 28mm f/1.2. I'm lumping these together because I've used these lenses on the R5, the C70, Blackmagic, S5 II, S5 IIX, and they produce pretty much the same amazing image. Very bokeh-licious.
The bokeh is really very strange.
Why is the bokeh strange?
I don't know, it just like, it's hard to explain it.
It's hard to explain it. Film it so we can see
Like I'm filming it. Like it looks like there's a green screen behind you because it's so separated.
Sharp in the center, and with ND filters and a diffusion filter, they make a picture look, well, cinematic, or 1/3 cinematic. It really doesn't matter if it's 4K, 6K, or 8K. I've shot log and raw with these, and they've been fantastic and consistent. My second lens is a Helios 44, which is old, cheap, and degraded, but gives a vintage look, which is why I think a lot of people love vintage lenses. It takes them back to the film days. It resembles those more than the traditional sharp and clinical lenses. If you can afford it, get Cooks or the Canon Sumeries. I think those will make your image look more cinematic from the get-go, producing something pleasing, perhaps lower contrast, and a more milky bokeh if I had to describe it in a way. But I don't have $30,000 for lenses, so I'm using these lenses that open up wide and with diffusion filters like Cinebloom from Moment or Glimmerglass from Tiffin to create a subtle image that appears cinematic. But I do still need light of quality, whether natural or with constant lights. They're intentional, they're helping shape my story. Lastly, the color grade helps sew all these together like a master seamstress, bringing the runner home to cross the finish line. And there we have it, the magic formula. Cinematic equals quality light plus proper optics plus a pleasing color grade. Mystery solved.